I've been married to Molly for 37 years. 3 years ago, a delivery truck ran a red light and took most of her memory away. The crash left her with gaps, holes that swallow whole days, sometimes weeks. I thought I'd adjusted. I thought nothing could shake me anymore. I was wrong. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The neurologist's office smelled like antiseptic and old magazines. Dr. Glenn Randall had been seeing Molly for 6 months, ever since Alicia insisted we get a second opinion. Today, his eyes were different, frightened. Alicia stood when he called Molly's name. "I'll take her back." "Actually, Mrs. Burns, if you could wait here a moment?" Dr. Randall's voice was steady, but his jaw was tight. "I need to speak with Mr. Warner first." Alicia's smile didn't reach her eyes. She was 34, polished in that way that comes from expensive salons and careful practice. My daughter had always been ambitious, but somewhere in the last few years, that ambition had hardened into something I didn't recognize. "Of course," she said, too smooth. The moment the door closed, Dr. Randall leaned close. His breath smelled like coffee and fear. "Get your wife away from your daughter." The words hit me like a blow. "What?" "I can't say more. Not here." His hands were shaking. "But you need to be very careful about what papers you sign, what appointments you agree to." Before I could respond, the door opened. Alicia walked in with Molly, one hand on my wife's elbow, the other clutching a manila folder tight against her chest. "Dad, Dr. Randall gave us some new consent forms. They need your signature, too." I looked at Molly. She was smiling, but it was the vague smile she wore when she wasn't quite sure what was happening. Her fingers tapped against her purse. 3 quick beats. The worry signal. "I'll look at them at home," I said. "They really should be filed today." Alicia's voice had an edge now. I took the folder from her hand. She held on for a second too long. "I'll read them tonight," I said. The drive home was quiet. Back at the house, I made Molly tea and took the folder into my office. The forms weren't standard, not even close. I've run Warner Facility Solutions for 32 years. Started with 1 van and a mop, built it into a company with 200 employees. You don't do that without learning to read the fine print. These forms were requesting preliminary authorization for guardianship evaluation, not treatment updates. Authorization to assess whether Molly needed someone else to make her decisions. The margins were wrong. The dates were inconsistent. One form was dated 2 weeks before today's appointment, but it had a notation claiming Dr. Randall recommended the evaluation after a session that hadn't happened yet. I read them 3 times. Each time my hands got colder. The phone call came at 9 that night. Alicia, voice bright and brittle. "Did you sign those forms, Dad?" "Not yet. I have some questions." Silence. Then, "What kind of questions?" "The kind that need answers before I sign anything." "Mom's condition is getting worse. The doctor said we need to be proactive." "We'll talk about it this weekend. You and Brent should come for dinner." "Fine." She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I went upstairs to check on Molly. She was already asleep. Dr. Randall's words kept circling in my head. "Get your wife away from your daughter." In the morning, I found Molly in the kitchen, staring at a piece of paper. "Alicia left this on the counter. She must have stopped by early. I don't remember her being here." It was a note. "Mom, don't forget what we talked about. Dad's been under a lot of stress lately. Remember, I'm here to help both of you." "What did you talk about?" I asked. Molly's fingers did that 3-beat tap against the counter. "I'm not sure. She said you've been working too much. She said everything's going to change soon." Molly looked up at me. "Garrett, I'm scared." "I know," I said. That afternoon, I called Tony Messina. Tony ran the night shift for my downtown contracts, a careful man who'd been with me for 15 years. "I need information, medical offices, specifically any place my daughter might have appointments or access. What am I looking for? Anything unusual, copied files, after-hours visits, requests for records that don't go through normal channels." "This about Mrs. Warner?" "Yeah. I'll make some calls." He got back to me the next day. 3 different cleaning crews had noticed Alicia at medical offices during closed hours over the past 4 months. One crew supervisor remembered her talking to a file clerk about needing copies of her mother's records. The clerk had refused. 2 days later, that clerk was written up and transferred. I made notes. Dates, locations, names. That evening, Brent called. Brent was 36, handsome in that gym and hair product way, always dressed a little too well for someone whose business ventures kept failing. Garrett, we need to talk about Molly's situation. What situation? You know her memory's getting worse. Alicia's been trying to help, but you're making it difficult. Those forms need to be signed. I'll handle my wife's medical care, Brent. Alicia's a medical administrator, or she knows how these things work. You're a cleaning company owner. Maybe you should trust the people who actually understand this stuff. I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. No offense taken. Have a good night. After I hung up, I sat very still. Then I made another call to a security company I'd worked with. By midnight, I had 6 tiny cameras installed around my house. I didn't sleep much that night. 3 days later, the cameras caught something. The footage was time-stamped 2:17 p.m. on a Thursday. I was at the office. Molly was home alone, or so I thought. Alicia came through the front door with her own key. She went straight to the kitchen, where Molly was doing a crossword puzzle. Hey, Mom, how are you feeling today? Molly looked up, smiling. Good, sweetheart. I didn't know you were coming over. Just wanted to check on you. Alicia sat down across from her. Do you remember what we talked about yesterday? We talked yesterday? Yes. About Dad, about how worried you've been. Molly's face creased in confusion. Worried? You told me you've been concerned about his behavior, how he's been forgetting things, getting angry more easily. I did? Yes, Mom, you did. Alicia reached across the table. It's okay if you don't remember. That's why I'm here, to help you keep track of important things. Molly's fingers started tapping. I don't think... Garrett seems fine to me. I know it's hard to see, but he's not fine, Mom, and you asked me to help. I did? You did? They sat like that for a moment. Then Alicia pulled out a small notebook. Let's practice, okay? When Dr. Hendricks asks about Dad's behavior next week, what are you going to say? Dr. Hendricks? Who's Dr. Hendricks? Your new neurologist, remember? We switched because Dr. Randall wasn't the right fit. I watched the footage 3 times. Each time, my hands clenched harder. Alicia spent 40 minutes coaching Molly. Gentle, patient, inserting memories that didn't exist. By the end, Molly was repeating phrases verbatim. Garrett's been forgetful. Garrett's been angry. When Alicia finally left, she paused in the doorway, looked back at Molly, and smiled. It wasn't a daughter's smile. It was satisfaction. I called Dr. Randall's office. The receptionist told me he couldn't come to the phone. Tell him it's Garrett Warner. Tell him it's urgent. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mr. Warner. His voice was low, careful. Who's Dr. Hendricks? Silence. Then, Samuel Hendricks. Private practice, specializes in cognitive decline. He has a reputation for being flexible. Flexible how? He tends to agree with family members who request specific diagnoses. There have been complaints, but nothing that stuck. Alicia brought my wife to him. Last week, according to our records transfer request. I refused to send the full files. Why didn't you tell me? Patient confidentiality, family medical power of attorney provisions. Your daughter has been very careful about legal boundaries. But Mr. Warner, I've been doing this for 23 years. I know manipulation when I see it. What does she want? What do you think she wants? I closed my eyes. Control. Get your wife away from your daughter, he said again. Then he hung up. That night, I told Molly we needed to be careful. She nodded, understanding more than her condition should have allowed. I called Tony again. Remember those favors you owe me? Yeah, boss. Time to collect. I need information on my son-in-law, business records, financial statements, anything public. And I need someone who can access private storage facilities, quietly. How quiet? Very. Give me 2 days. Tony called back with news I expected but dreaded. Brent's most recent company was drowning. $300,000 in debt, 2 investors threatening legal action, payroll 2 months behind. But the interesting part was the storage unit. Brent had rented a climate-controlled unit at Bellevue Storage 6 months ago, paid cash for a year up front. Can you get me inside? I asked. The manager owes me. He'll look the other way for an hour. But Garrett, if you get caught... I won't get caught. When? Tonight. Bellevue Storage was on the industrial edge of town. The manager met us in the parking lot at 11, handed Tony a key card, and drove away without a word. You want me to come with you? Tony asked. No, wait in the car. If anyone comes, call me. The facility was a maze of hallways and rolling doors. Brent's unit was on the 3rd floor in the back corner. The door rolled up with a metallic screech. Inside were boxes, dozens of them, labeled in Alicia's precise handwriting. I opened the first one. Medical records. Molly's charts from 3 different neurologists, photocopied and annotated. Someone had highlighted every mention of memory problems. Entire sessions were circled in red, with marginal notes like use this and strong evidence. The second box held drafts, pages and pages of guardianship petitions, conservatorship requests, mental competency evaluations. Some were dated months ago. The third box made my hands shake. Psychiatric profiles, not of Molly, of me. Someone had written detailed assessments of my mental state, paranoid ideation, difficulty accepting spouse's condition, resistant to professional medical advice, show signs of impaired judgment and potential emotional instability. The assessments were signed by Dr. Samuel Hendricks, but they were dated before I'd ever met the man. At the bottom of the box was a receipt, $5,000, paid to someone named Mitchell Crane. The memo line read, Consultation Services, Preliminary Psychological Profiles. They weren't just coming for Molly, they were coming for both of us. My phone buzzed. Tony? Someone just pulled into the lot. I grabbed my phone and started taking pictures. Fast, methodical, every page I could capture. Garrett, it's Brent. He's heading inside. I shoved the boxes back, rolled down the door, and moved toward the emergency stairwell. Behind me, the elevator dinged. The stairwell was dark. I took the steps 2 at a time. Above me, a door opened. Footsteps. I froze. I know someone's been here, Brent's voice echoed down. The manager's lying. I pressed against the wall, barely breathing. The footsteps came closer, stopped 1 floor above me, then his phone rang. Yeah. No, I'm checking now. I told you, we need to move faster. The old man's getting suspicious. I don't care what the timeline was. Change it. The footsteps retreated. A door closed. I waited 5 minutes, then slipped out through the ground floor exit. Tony had the car running. You get what you needed? He asked. Yeah, I said. I got it. The photos sat on my computer like ammunition. 300 images of betrayal, each one carefully cataloged and backed up in 4 separate locations. Mitchell Crane wasn't hard to find, a private investigator specializing in custody cases and elder care disputes. His website promised comprehensive psychological assessments and expert testimony. I called his office at 9 a.m. using a burner phone. Crane Investigations. I need to discuss a case you worked on, the Warner family. Silence. Then, who is this? Someone who's very interested in how you produce psychological profiles for people you've never met. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. How much did Brent Burns pay you? The receipt says $5,000, but I'm guessing that was just the down payment. The call went silent. Next, I focused on Dr. Hendricks. His practice was in a medical building downtown. I had a cleaning contract there. Not with Hendricks directly, but with the building management. I called my operations manager. Rachel, I need the access schedule for the Riverside Medical Plaza. Sure, boss. What do you need? Who cleans Dr. Hendricks' office? That would be Maria's crew. Tuesday and Friday nights, after 10. Tell Maria I need to inspect her work personally this Friday. Quality control check. Friday night, I arrived at Riverside Medical at 10:30, wearing a Warner Facility Solutions jacket. The security guard waved me through. Maria met me on the 4th floor. Mr. Warner, I didn't know you were coming tonight. Last-minute thing. Mind if I take a look? Just need to verify a few things for a potential new contract. Of course. The office was smaller than I expected. A desk covered in folders and a laptop that had been left open. Maria, can you and your team take a break? I'll need about 20 minutes. Sure thing, boss. The moment she left, I moved to the desk. The laptop was logged in, email open. I pulled out a USB drive and started copying files. Then I opened the filing cabinet. Molly's file was there, thick with notes. But it wasn't the medical assessments that caught my attention. It was the correspondence section. Emails between Hendricks and Alicia, going back 8 months. Initial consultation, R.E. M. Warner, early stage evaluation strategy. Follow-up, recommend gradual confidence building, avoid resistance triggers. Update, husband increasingly suspicious, may need alternative approach. They weren't treating Molly's condition, they were managing me. The last email made my hands shake. Plan B initiated per your request. If primary approach fails, secondary subject evaluation will provide necessary leverage. Mitchell Crane has agreed to revise timeline. Primary approach, take control of Molly. Plan B, take control of me. I photographed every page, copied every file, and was out in 15 minutes. On the way home, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Warner, this is Mitchell Crane. I think we should meet. Why the sudden change of heart? Let's just say I don't like being threatened. Your daughter made certain promises that haven't been kept. I'm starting to think her money's not as good as she claimed. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., coffee shop on 5th Street. He agreed. That night, I sat in my office and organized everything. Photos from the storage unit, files from Hendrix's computer, the receipt for Crane's services, every piece of their plan laid out in chronological order. Molly knocked on the door around midnight. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Just working." She came and stood beside me, looking at the screen, at her own medical records, covered in someone else's annotations. "That's my file," she said. "Yeah." "Why do you have it?" I turned to face her. "Because Alicia's been lying. About your condition, about my behavior, about everything." Molly was quiet for a long time. Then, "Why would she do that?" "Money, control, maybe both. What are we going to do?" "I'm going to stop her." The next afternoon, I met Mitchell Crane at the coffee shop. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with nervous energy. "Mr. Warner." He didn't offer to shake hands. "You said you wanted to talk?" "Your daughter hired me to create psychological profiles, said it was for a guardianship case. She showed me medical records, seemed legitimate. But she's been dodging my calls for 3 weeks, owes me another $7,000. When I threatened to pull my reports, she said I'd regret it. So this is about money. This is about me not wanting to be left holding the bag when this falls apart." He slid a folder across the table. "That's everything I did for them. All the profiles, all the reports. It's garbage. I wrote what they paid me to write." I opened the folder. Page after page of detailed psychological assessments. "You know this is fraud," I said. "You know I have recordings of your daughter telling me exactly what to write. We both have leverage, Mr. Warner." "What do you want?" "Nothing from you. Just wanted you to know that if anyone comes asking, I have documentation that I was hired under false pretenses." He left. I sat there for an hour, reading through his reports. They were damning, professional, convincing. If these had been submitted to a court, Alicia would have won. But they hadn't been submitted yet. That evening, Brent called. "Garrett, we need to talk, face to face." "About what?" "About the fact that you broke into my storage unit." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The manager mentioned someone paid him to look the other way. Security cameras caught a man matching your description." "If you had actual evidence, you'd have called the police." Silence. "That's what I thought," I continued. "You can't report me without explaining what I found." "You think you're smart, old man, but you're just making this harder on yourself. When this is over, when we have control, maybe we'll be too busy to visit. Maybe she'll end up somewhere you can't see her." He hung up. I sat very still. Not a threat to harm Molly, but a threat to take her away. Complete isolation. Complete control. My phone rang again. Alicia. "Dad, Brent told me what you did. I thought we could handle this as adults, but apparently you're too paranoid." "Help? Is that what you call forging medical documents?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Sure you don't. Just like you don't know about Mitchell Crane or Dr. Hendrix's services or the storage unit full of guardianship petitions." Silence. Then, carefully. "Dad, you're not well. I think we need to accelerate Mom's treatment plan, and maybe get you evaluated too. You're not taking your mother anywhere. We'll see what the court says." She hung up. I looked at my phone, then at the files on my computer. I had everything I needed to expose them, but exposure wasn't enough. I needed to destroy them completely. Time to go to war. Sunday morning, I drove to an electronics store and paid cash for a new laptop and external hard drives. Then I spent 6 hours in a library, scanning and organizing every document I'd gathered. By evening, I had a complete digital archive, encrypted, backed up, ready to deploy. Monday morning, I called my attorney, James Peterman. "James, I need you to draw up some documents. Power of attorney forms, updated will, medical directives, everything giving Molly and me full control over our own affairs." "Everything okay, Garrett?" "Just being cautious." "How fast can you have them ready?" "End of the week." "Make it Wednesday." "And James?" "I need you to file them officially, with copies sent to every medical provider we've used, including Dr. Samuel Hendrix." Wednesday afternoon, I signed the documents. By Thursday morning, copies had been delivered to 8 different medical offices. Alicia called at noon, her voice sharp with rage. "What did you do?" "Exercise my legal rights." "You sent medical directives to Mom's doctors, removing me from her care decisions. You were never on her care decisions. You just acted like you were." "Fine. If that's how you want to play this, fine." She hung up. I counted to 10. My phone rang again. Brent. You stupid old man. You just made everything worse. For who? For all of us. You think some paperwork is going to stop this? We're filing the guardianship petition tomorrow, both of you. Let's see how your paperwork holds up when a judge hears about your paranoid behavior, your break-in, your threats. I haven't threatened anyone. You will have. By the time we're done talking to our attorney, you'll have done a lot of things. He hung up. I stared at my phone. They were moving faster than I'd expected. A court petition would force everything into the open before I was ready, unless I made them more desperate. That evening, I drafted an email, short, simple, devastating, to Dr. Samuel Hendricks, Mitchell Crane, and Brent Burns. CC, Alicia Burns. I am aware of the fraudulent documentation you have prepared. I have copies of all correspondence, all reports, and all financial transactions. I have consulted with an attorney regarding potential criminal charges. You have 48 hours to withdraw any pending petitions or face immediate legal action. I attached 3 files. 1 email from Hendricks to Alicia, 1 receipt from Crane, 1 photograph of the storage unit. Then I hit send. My phone started ringing within 10 minutes. I ignored it. Text messages followed, increasingly frantic. At 11 p.m., someone knocked on my door, hard, angry. I looked through the window. Brent, standing on my porch, hands clenched. I opened the door, but kept the chain on. What do you want? Delete that email, right now. No. Garrett, I'm not asking. They're already ugly, Brent. You made them that way. He tried to push the door. The chain held. You're making a huge mistake. You think you have leverage? We have an entire case built. Doctors, reports, witnesses. You have some emails and photos you stole illegally. I guess we'll find out. Last chance, old man. Good night, Brent. I closed the door. Listened to him stand there for another minute before his footsteps retreated. Then I made a phone call to Tony. I need help. Real help. And I need it fast. Tony arrived at 6 with Luis and Danny, men from the night cruise who owed me favors. Boss, what's the play? Tony asked. I spread documents on the table. My daughter and her husband are trying to take control of everything. Medical decisions, finances, using forged documents and paid testimony. Luis let out a low whistle. I continued. I have proof, but they're moving fast. Once they file, it becomes a long legal fight. I can't let it reach that stage. Danny asked what I needed. Information, surveillance, witnesses if things go sideways. They agreed instantly. I assigned Tony to watch Alicia, Luis to track Brent, and Danny to monitor Dr. Hendricks. Don't be obvious. Just report everything. After they left, I spent the morning making physical copies of all evidence, placing them in a safety deposit box, sending a set to attorney James Peterman and another to a friend out of state. Molly watched. You're preparing for something. Something necessary, I said. I trust you, Garrett. It meant more than she knew. That afternoon, Tony called. Alicia had left home with banker boxes and headed to the courthouse. I followed soon after and saw her exit looking pleased. She had filed the petition. I phoned James. He warned I had maybe a week if they pushed for an emergency hearing. Be ready with a defense, he said. I told him to send everything I needed. Luis then reported Brent had met with a man carrying a briefcase. Pictures showed an older man in an expensive suit. James identified him as Richard Vollmer, a top estate attorney with a high success rate. If they hired him, they were serious. Then I need him in the 10% he loses, I said. By evening, all 3 men updated me. Tony tracked Alicia to several meetings. Luis said Brent looked increasingly stressed. Danny saw Alicia visit Dr. Hendricks for an hour and leave upset. Good, pressure was building. I reviewed all the evidence again and began planning the endgame. Expose every lie so completely that recovery would be impossible. I needed all players in one place with no room for denial. The idea struck at 3 a.m. Friday morning, I called Vollmer's office, hinting at fraudulent documentation and witness tampering. He agreed to meet. I also left a message for Dr. Hendricks and called Alicia directly. We need to talk, I said. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything. I know what you've done. Sort of the forged documents, the paid testimony, the coaching. Meet me tomorrow at 7. Bring Brent if you want. She hung up, but I knew she'd come. Saturday, I met Vollmer at his office. I placed a folder on his desk. Your clients hired a private investigator, Mitchell Crane, to fabricate psychological profiles. Here's the receipt, the profiles, and Crane's statement. Additionally, your clients have been working with Dr. Samuel Hendricks to manipulate my wife's medical records and create a false narrative about her cognitive decline. Here are the emails between Dr. Hendricks and my daughter. Here are recordings of my daughter coaching my wife to make false statements. Vollmer's expression didn't change, but his hands stilled. Finally, your clients broke into my home, accessed private medical files without authorization, and created forged guardianship documents. All of this is documented here. I placed the final folder on his desk. Now, Mr. Vollmer, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm guessing that if this information becomes public, it won't just damage your client's case. It will expose them to criminal charges, fraud, forgery, mistreatment of elders. Vollmer was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened the first folder and began reading. I sat back and waited. He read for 20 minutes. When he finally looked up, his face was carefully neutral. Where did you get this information? Does it matter? Some of it appears to have been obtained through questionable means. And all of it is true. Which matters more in your professional opinion? He closed the folder. Mr. Warner, I'll need to verify this information with my clients. Of course, but I thought you should know what you're representing before we all end up in court. I appreciate that. He stood. I'll be in touch. I left his office knowing I'd planted the first seed of doubt. Vollmer was a professional. He wouldn't stay on a sinking ship. That evening, I went to my warehouse. Warner Facility Solutions had 3 locations, but this was the original, the one I'd started 32 years ago. The office in the back was small, but it had a conference room with a table and 8 chairs. I set up a laptop, connected it to a projector I'd borrowed from our training room, and loaded all my evidence files. Then I waited. At 7:15, headlights swept across the parking lot. Alicia's car. She came in with Brent, both of them tense, wary. Alicia's eyes scanned the room like she was expecting an ambush. "Where's your lawyer?" she asked. "Don't need one. This isn't a legal meeting. This is a family meeting." "Family," she laughed bitterly. "You don't even know what that word means anymore." "Sit down, Alicia. We'll stand." "Fine." I picked up the laptop remote. "Then watch." I started the presentation. First, the storage unit photographs, boxes of forged documents marked in Alicia's handwriting. Alicia's face went pale. Brent's jaw clenched. Next, the emails between Alicia and Dr. Hendricks. Every message, every plan, every manipulation laid out in their own words. "Where did you get those?" Alicia's voice shook. "Keep watching." The video footage. Alicia coaching Molly, inserting false memories, training her to make statements that weren't true. Alicia took a step back. Finally, the receipts. $5,000 to Mitchell Crane, monthly payments to Dr. Hendricks, storage unit rental, legal consultations. "You've been planning this for almost a year," I said. "Every step, every lie. All for what? Money? Control? What was worth destroying your mother?" "You don't understand," Alicia said. "Then explain it to me." "Mom needs help, real help, and you're too stubborn to see it." "So you decided to make me look incompetent? To forge documents and pay people to create false testimony?" "We did what we had to do." "You did what you wanted to do." I shut off the projector. "And now you're going to undo it." "We're not undoing anything," Brent said. "You got this information illegally. None of it will hold up in court." "Maybe, maybe not. But it'll hold up in the court of public opinion. Imagine if this got sent to every client of Warner Facility Solutions, every business partner, every person in this city who knows our family. Would you like that, Alicia? Would you like everyone to see what you've done? You wouldn't. Try me." Silence fell over the room. Then Brent moved. Fast. He lunged for the laptop. I was faster. 30 years of physical work keep you stronger than you look. I caught his wrist, twisted, and pushed him back. He stumbled into a chair. "Don't," I said quietly. "You're threatening us," Alicia said. "I'm giving you a choice. Withdraw the petition, walk away. And maybe I don't press charges. And if we don't, then I make sure every piece of this evidence ends up in the right hands. Police, prosecutors, medical boards, all of it." Alicia looked at Brent. Something passed between them. Then she turned back to me. "You win. We'll withdraw the petition. Not good enough. I want a written statement, admitting what you did, admitting the documents were forged, the testimony was bought, all of it." "That's insane. We'd be confessing to crimes." "Yes, you would. But it's the only way I believe you'll actually stop. Otherwise, you'll just wait and try again." Brent stood up, furious. "We're not signing anything. Then we go to war, and trust me, you'll lose." They stared at me for a long moment. Then Alicia's shoulders sagged. "Fine. We'll sign. Tomorrow. My lawyer's office. Both of you." They left without another word. I stood in the empty conference room for a long time after they were gone, my hands shaking. Not from fear, from rage I'd been holding in for weeks. But I wasn't done yet. Sunday morning, James Peterman called. "Garrett, I just got a message from Richard Vollmer. He's withdrawing from the case. Says there's a conflict of interest." "Good. What did you do?" "Showed him the truth. He's smart enough to recognize a losing case. Alicia and Brent are coming in this afternoon to sign statements. That's the plan. I'll have everything ready. Garrett, you know they could still cause problems. Even with statements, even if they withdraw the petition. I know, but I'm counting on them being too scared to try." That afternoon, I arrived at James's office with copies of all my evidence files. Alicia and Brent were already there, sitting in the conference room like defendants awaiting sentencing. James had prepared 2 identical statements, detailed confessions of everything they'd done, the forged documents, the paid testimony, the manipulation of Molly, everything. "Sign these," James said, "and Mr. Warner has agreed not to pursue criminal charges." Alicia read through the statement, her face growing paler with each paragraph. "This is a confession." "Yes. If we sign this, we're admitting to fraud, forgery, mistreatment of elders." "Yes. We could go to prison." "Only if Mr. Warner decides to turn these over to authorities, which he won't, as long as you withdraw your petition and cease all attempts to gain control over his or his wife's affairs." Brent looked at me. "And if we don't sign?" "Then I turn over everything I have to the district attorney tomorrow morning, and you take your chances with a jury." They signed. James notarized the documents, made copies, and placed the originals in his safe. "It's done," he said. Alicia stood up. "I hope you're happy, Dad. You just destroyed your own family." "No, Alicia. You did that the moment you decided to treat your mother like a pawn." She walked out. Brent followed, pausing at the door. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes," I replied. "It is." After they left, James poured 2 glasses of bourbon. "That was ugly," he said. "It had to be." "What happens now?" "Now I make sure they can never do this again." "The statements will help. But Garrett, you need to be careful. Cornered animals are dangerous." "I know." I drove home as the sun was setting. Molly was in the kitchen, making tea. She looked up when I came in. "How did it go?" "It's done. They signed confessions, withdrew the petition. It's over." She set down her cup. "Is it really?" "As over as it can be." She came to me, put her arms around me. "I'm sorry you had to do this." "I'm not. They needed to be stopped." We stood like that for a long time. Then she pulled back, her eyes clearer than they'd been in years. "Garrett, I need to tell you something." "What?" "About the accident, the one 3 years ago." My heart stopped. "What about it?" "I remember more than I told anyone, more than the doctors know. Molly, Alicia was there that day, not just after, but during. She was in the car with me when we were hit." The world tilted. She said she wasn't. She said she got there after the ambulance. "I know, but she was there. I remember her voice screaming at me to stay awake. And then later, at the hospital, she told me to forget. Said it would be easier if no one knew she'd been driving." "She was driving?" "I don't know. I can't remember that part. But she was there, and she lied about it." I sat down heavily. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I wasn't sure. The memories are so fragmented. But lately they've been coming back. Pieces. Flashes. And I remember her voice. Garrett. I remember her telling me to forget." I thought about everything that had happened. The guardianship scheme, the forged documents, the elaborate plan to take control. If Alicia had been driving, if she'd caused the accident that damaged Molly's memory, then the guardianship wasn't just about money. It was about covering up what she'd done. "We need to look into this," I said. "How?" "The police report. The accident investigation. If Alicia was there, there might be evidence." Monday morning, I called Tony. "I need one more favor. A big one." "Name it, boss." "I need you to find out everything you can about Molly's accident 3 years ago. Police reports, witness statements, insurance claims, everything." "Looking for something specific?" "Evidence that my daughter was involved." Tony was quiet for a moment. "That's heavy. Can you do it?" "I'll try." 2 days later, he called back. "Boss, I got something. Police report lists one witness, woman named Patricia Vega. She saw the whole thing. Lives 2 blocks from where the accident happened." "Did she mention Alicia?" "Report doesn't say, but she might remember more than what's written down." "Send me her address." Patricia Vega was 71, retired, living in a small house with a garden full of roses. She answered the door cautiously when I knocked. "Mrs. Vega, my name is Garrett Warner. I'd like to ask you about an accident you witnessed 3 years ago." "The one on Maple Street?" "Yes. My wife was involved." Her face softened. "Oh, I remember. Terrible thing. Is she all right?" "She survived, but her memory was affected. I'm trying to understand what happened that day." "Come in, I'll tell you what I saw." We sat in her living room, surrounded by photos of grandchildren and cross-stitched pillows. "It was around 2 in the afternoon," she said. "I was coming home from the grocery store, saw the whole thing from my car. That delivery truck ran the red light, hit the passenger side of your wife's car." "Were there 2 people in the car?" She nodded. "Yes, your wife was in the passenger seat. A younger woman was driving, pretty girl, dark hair." "Did you tell the police?" "I did, but when they asked the driver for her statement, she said she was alone. The police believed her. I tried to tell them, but they said I must have been confused, that the trauma of seeing the accident made me misremember." "But you're sure there were 2 people?" "Positive. I saw the driver get out of the car. She was upset, crying. Then the ambulance came, and when the police showed up, suddenly she was saying she wasn't driving, that she'd arrived after the crash. It didn't make sense." "Did you see what happened to her?" "She left before the ambulance did. Just walked away. I thought that was strange, but I was giving my statement to the police, and by the time I thought to mention it, she was gone." I showed her a photo of Alicia. "Is this the woman?" She studied it carefully. "Yes, that's her." "Would you be willing to make a statement? An official one? After all this time?" "Yes. It's important." She thought for a moment. "If it helps your wife, yes, I'll make a statement." I left Patricia Vega's house with a signed affidavit detailing what she'd witnessed. The police report had dismissed her account, but that didn't make it any less true. Alicia had been driving. She'd caused the accident that damaged Molly's memory, and then she'd lied about it. But more than that, she'd spent 3 years trying to gain control over Molly's medical decisions. Not out of love or concern, out of fear. Fear that Molly would remember, fear that the truth would come out. The guardianship scheme wasn't just about money, it was about controlling the only witness to what she'd done. I called James Peterman. "I need to see the confession statements Alicia and Brent signed." "Why?" "Because I just found out something that changes everything." That evening, I sat down with the statements, Patricia Vega's affidavit, and the police report from Molly's accident. Then I made a decision. Alicia and Brent had signed confessions. They'd withdrawn their petition. Legally, I'd won, but winning wasn't enough. They needed to face what they'd done. Not just the guardianship scheme, everything. I called Alicia. "We need to meet, one more time." "We signed your statements. It's over." "Not quite. There's something we need to discuss about the accident." Silence. Then, "What about it?" "You were driving, Alicia. You were driving the car when it was hit. And then you lied about it." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. I have a witness. Someone who saw you behind the wheel. Someone who saw you walk away while your mother was being loaded into an ambulance." "That's not true. Tomorrow, noon. Same place as before. Bring Brent. We're going to settle this once and for all." I hung up. The warehouse office felt smaller this time, darker, like the walls were closing in with the weight of 3 years of lies. I arrived early, set up the projector again, and loaded the new files. Patricia Vega's affidavit, the police report with her original statement, photos of Alicia's car from the insurance claim, showing she'd been in an accident the same day. At noon, Alicia and Brent arrived. They looked exhausted, defeated, but there was still defiance in Alicia's eyes. "This is harassment," she said. "We signed your statements. We withdrew the petition. What more do you want?" "The truth about what really happened 3 years ago." "I already told you everything." "No, you didn't." I started the presentation. Patricia Vega, age 71, retired school teacher. She witnessed your mother's accident. She saw you driving. The screen showed her affidavit, her statement, her testimony. Alicia's face went white. "She told the police you were there, but you convinced them she was mistaken, that she was confused, and then you spent 3 years trying to make sure your mother never remembered what happened. That's insane." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it all makes perfect sense. You caused the accident that damaged your mother's memory. You knew that if she ever recovered those memories, you'd be exposed, so you tried to gain legal control over her medical decisions. You tried to have her declared incompetent. You tried to make sure she'd never be a credible witness." "Dad, you're wrong. It wasn't like that." "Then tell me what it was like, Alicia. Tell me the truth." She looked at Brent. He gave a tiny shake of his head. We were arguing, she said finally. Mom and me, in the car, about money, about Brent's business. She said she wouldn't help us anymore, that we needed to solve our own problems. I was upset. I wasn't paying attention, and then that truck came out of nowhere. So you were driving? Yes, but it wasn't my fault. The truck ran the light. It would have hit us anyway. Maybe, but you still lied about it. You let everyone think your mother was alone. You walked away and let her take the blame for the accident. I was scared. I panicked. And then you spent 3 years trying to control her so she couldn't contradict your story. No, that's not why. Then why, Alicia? Why forge documents? Why pay for false testimony? Why try to have your own mother declared incompetent? She was crying now. Because we needed the money. Brent's business was failing. We were drowning in debt. And Mom and you have everything. The house, the company, the savings. We just needed help. So you tried to steal it. We tried to survive. By destroying us. She had no answer for that. I turned to Brent. And you. You went along with all of this. Helped her forge documents, hired Mitchell Crane, paid Dr. Hendricks, all for money. We didn't have a choice, Brent said. There's always a choice. You made the wrong one. I shut off the projector. Here's what's going to happen now. You're going to withdraw completely from our lives. No more visits, no more calls, no more attempts to access your mother's medical records or financial information. You're done. Dad, please, Alicia said. And you're going to make restitution. Whatever money you took from us, whatever you accessed through your mother's accounts, you're going to pay it back. We can't. We don't have it. Then you'll find a way. Sell your house. Liquidate your assets. I don't care how you do it, but you'll make it right. And if we don't, then I turn over everything I have to the district attorney. The confessions, the evidence, Patricia Vega's testimony, all of it, and you both go to prison. Silence fell over the room. You can't do this, Brent said. You're blackmailing us. No, I'm giving you a choice, the same choice you gave us. Comply or face the consequences. Alicia stood up. I hate you. I can live with that. She left. Brent followed, but paused at the door. You broke your own family, old man. I hope you're proud. My family was broken the moment you two decided to destroy it. I'm just finishing what you started. After they left, I sat in the empty office for a long time. The victory felt hollow. I'd won, but I'd lost my daughter in the process. Still, it had to be done. I drove home to Molly. She was in the garden, pulling weeds, humming to herself. When she saw me, she smiled. Is it really over? She asked. Yes, it's over. What happens now? Now we move forward. Without them. She nodded, sad but accepting. I lost my daughter today, didn't I? We both did, a long time ago. That evening, James Peterman called. Garrett, I just got word. Alicia and Brent have officially withdrawn their petition, filed a notice of voluntary dismissal. It's done. Good. But there's something else. Richard Vollmer sent me a message. He said Alicia came to him requesting representation for a different matter. He declined. What matter? He wouldn't say, but he wanted you to know. I thanked him and hung up. A different matter. That was concerning. But I'd deal with it if it became a problem. For now, I needed to focus on Molly, on rebuilding what Alicia and Brent had tried to destroy. The next few weeks were quiet. No calls from Alicia, no threats from Brent, just silence. Molly's memory continued to be fragmented, but she was more present somehow, more engaged, like a weight had been lifted. I feel safer now, she told me one evening, like I can relax. You are safe. I made sure of that. I know, thank you. But the peace didn't last. 6 weeks after our last confrontation, Tony called. Boss, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Brent. He's been asking around about you, talking to people at the company, asking questions about contracts, about finances. What kind of questions? The kind that make me think he's looking for something to use against you. Thanks for the heads up. I'll handle it. I called Brent. What are you doing? I don't know what you're talking about. You're investigating me, asking questions about my business. Why? Maybe I'm just curious. Maybe I'm looking for leverage. We had a deal. You signed a confession. You withdrew the petition. It's over. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, you still have everything, and we have nothing. That doesn't seem fair. Fair? You tried to steal my wife's autonomy. You forged documents. You paid for false testimony. Nothing about this situation is fair. We'll see about that. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. They weren't done. Despite everything, despite the confessions and the evidence, they were still looking for a way to win. I called James Peterman. They're not going to stop, I said. What do you want to do? I want to end this. Permanently. How? By exposing everything, publicly. Garrett, that could backfire. The confessions were meant to stay private. If you release them, Alicia and Brent could claim duress. I don't care. I'm done playing defense. It's time to go on offense. Let me think about this. Give me a few days to come up with a strategy. But I didn't have a few days. 2 nights later, someone broke into my house. I woke to the sound of glass breaking downstairs. Molly stirred beside me. What was that? Stay here. Lock the door. I grabbed my phone and crept downstairs. The back door had been shattered, glass scattered across the kitchen floor. Someone was in my office. I called 911, whispered the situation, then moved quietly toward the office. The door was ajar, light spilling into the hallway. Inside, Brent was rifling through my filing cabinets. Police are on the way, I said. He spun around. Where are the copies? What copies? The confessions, the evidence, all of it. Where do you keep it? Not here. Liar. He moved toward me. I know you have copies somewhere in this house. Tell me where they are. Or what? You'll attack me? Add assault to your list of crimes? I'll do whatever I have to do. He lunged. I sidestepped, and he crashed into the desk. Papers scattered. He came up swinging. I'd spent 30 years doing physical labor. He spent his time in gyms with trainers. It wasn't much of a fight. I caught his wrist, twisted, and shoved him hard against the wall. He slumped. It's over, Brent. Sirens wailed in the distance. He looked up at me, defeated. We needed that money. Not my problem. The police arrived minutes later. They took Brent away in handcuffs, charged with breaking and entering. After they left, I stood in my office, looking at the mess. Broken glass, scattered papers, the remnants of Alicia and Brent's desperation. Molly appeared in the doorway. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. What happens now? Now we finish this. The break-in changed everything. Brent's arrest gave me the ammunition I needed to finally end this war. The next morning, I met with James Peterman and a detective from the city police department. Mr. Warner, the detective said, we need to understand the full context of last night's incident. Your son-in-law claims he was there to retrieve personal property. That's not true. He was there to steal evidence that incriminates him and my daughter in a fraud scheme. I spent 2 hours walking them through everything. The guardianship scheme, the forged documents, Mitchell Crane's testimony, Dr. Hendrix's emails, the confessions Alicia and Brent had signed. The detective took notes, his expression growing grimmer with each revelation. Mr. Warner, why didn't you report this when you first discovered it? Because I wanted to handle it privately. Family matter, but they've made that impossible. I'll need copies of all this evidence. I have everything ready. James provided the detective with a complete file. Every document, every email, every photograph. The detective reviewed it carefully. This is substantial. I'll need to consult with the district attorney, but there are clearly grounds for criminal charges here. Fraud, forgery, possibly mistreatment of an elder. What about the break-in? That's the easy part. We have Brent on video from your security system. He'll likely be charged with burglary, but given this context, there may be additional charges. After the detective left, James turned to me. You realize what this means? Alicia will be arrested too. I know. This will destroy your family completely. My family was destroyed the moment they decided to do this. I'm just making sure they face consequences. Are you sure this is what you want? I thought about Molly's damaged memory, about 3 years of manipulation and lies, about the fear in Dr. Randall's voice when he warned me, about everything Alicia and Brent had done. Yes, I'm sure. 2 days later, police arrested Alicia at her office. The charges were extensive: fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud, mistreatment of an elder, falsifying medical records. The news spread quickly. Local media picked up the story. Medical administrator arrested in guardianship scheme. The details were damning. My phone rang constantly. Friends, business associates, employees. Everyone wanted to know if the stories were true. I confirmed them, all of them. Molly took it harder than I expected. She's still my daughter, she said quietly. I know. Even after everything, she's still my daughter. I know. Did it have to end this way? I sat beside her, took her hand. She made her choices. I made mine. She could have walked away after signing the confessions. She could have left us alone, but she didn't. What happens to her now? That depends on the district attorney and the judge. Will she go to prison? Maybe, probably. Molly was quiet for a long time. Then, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For not being strong enough to stop this. For not remembering sooner. For being the reason all of this happened. None of this is your fault. You were the victim. Alicia made herself the villain." But Molly's words haunted me. Had I gone too far? Had I let my anger and need for victory override everything else? No. I'd done what was necessary, what any parent would do to protect their spouse. 3 weeks later, Alicia and Brent's preliminary hearing was scheduled. James advised me not to attend, but I went anyway. Sat in the back of the courtroom and watched. Alicia looked small, diminished. Nothing like the confident woman who'd walked into my warehouse demanding I sign forged documents. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically. The evidence was overwhelming: the forged documents, the paid testimony, the emails, Patricia Vega's affidavit about the accident. Everything. Alicia's attorney tried to argue duress, claimed the confessions had been coerced, but the judge wasn't buying it. "These confessions are detailed and specific," the judge said, "and they're corroborated by substantial independent evidence." Motion denied. The hearing lasted 2 hours. At the end, the judge set trial dates and bail conditions. As people filed out, Alicia saw me. Our eyes met across the courtroom. She looked like she wanted to say something, but instead she just turned away. Outside, reporters were waiting. "Mr. Warner, how do you feel about your daughter's arrest?" I kept walking. "Mr. Warner, do you have any comment about the charges?" I stopped, turned to face them. "My daughter and her husband attempted to defraud my wife and me out of our autonomy and our assets. They forged documents, paid for false testimony, and manipulated a vulnerable woman for financial gain. I'm grateful to law enforcement for holding them accountable." "Do you hope they go to prison?" "I hope justice is served." That evening, Molly and I sat in our living room, the television off, the house quiet. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Which part?" "All of it. Fighting back, gathering evidence, getting them arrested." "No, do you?" She thought for a moment. "I don't know. I'm sad. But I'm not sorry you protected us." "That's all I ever wanted to do." "I know." We sat in silence for a while. Then Molly said something that surprised me. "I remember more now, about the accident, about Alicia." "What do you remember?" "We were arguing about Brent, about his business. I told her I wasn't going to keep bailing them out, that she needed to let him fail and move on. She got so angry, started yelling, and then the truck hit us." "And after?" "After, at the hospital, she came to my room. She was crying. She said she was sorry. But then she said we had to tell everyone I was alone in the car, that if anyone knew she was driving, she could lose her job, her license, everything." "So you agreed." "I was confused, in pain, on medication. I didn't understand what I was agreeing to. But she kept insisting, kept saying it was important. And eventually I just said yes." "And then you forgot?" "Not entirely. Pieces of it have always been there. But she made sure I couldn't trust those pieces. Made sure I thought they were just confusion from the accident." I reached for her hand. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. You're telling me now. That's what matters." The trial was set for 3 months later, but it never went that far. 6 weeks after the preliminary hearing, Alicia and Brent's attorney reached out to the district attorney with a plea deal. They would plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for probation and restitution. No prison time, but they would have to pay back every cent they'd taken, plus damages. The district attorney called me. "Mr. Warner, I wanted to get your input. The plea deal would save us the time and expense of a trial, but I understand if you want to see this through to the end." "What kind of restitution are we talking about?" "Full repayment of any funds accessed through your wife's accounts, plus $75,000 in damages, and they'd both lose their professional licenses. Alicia can't work in healthcare administration again. Brent can't operate a business in this state." "And probation?" 5 years, with strict conditions. Any violation, they go to prison." I thought about it, about Molly's sadness, about the cost of a trial, emotionally and financially, about whether seeing Alicia behind bars would actually make anything better. "I'll accept the plea deal on one condition." "What's that?" "They have to admit everything publicly. Full allocution in court. No minimizing, no excuses. They have to stand up and tell the truth about what they did." "I can make that part of the deal." "Then yes, I'll accept it." 2 weeks later, Alicia and Brent stood in court and confessed. Every crime, every lie, every manipulation. The judge made sure they left nothing out. When it was done, when they'd admitted everything, the judge accepted the plea deal. 5 years probation. Full restitution to be paid within 3 years. And I want to be clear, if you violate the terms of this agreement in any way, you will serve the maximum sentence. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, they said in unison. It was over. 6 months after the plea deal, life had returned to something resembling normal. Molly's memory remained fragmented, but she was more at peace. Warner Facility Solutions continued to grow. Alicia and Brent had made their first restitution payment, sold their house, liquidated their assets. They were living in a small apartment across town. Molly sometimes asked about them. Do you think she's sorry? She'd say. Probably, but sorry she did it, or sorry she got caught? I don't know. The truth was, I wasn't sure I ever wanted to see Alicia again. Every time I thought about her, I remembered the footage of her coaching Molly, the emails planning our destruction. Some things can't be forgiven. Tony got promoted to regional operations manager. The company expanded into 2 new cities. 3 months later, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from Patricia Vega. Mr. Warner, I wanted to let you know that I heard about your daughter's plea deal. Thank you. Your testimony was crucial. But Mr. Warner, there's something else. After the accident, your daughter came to see me. She asked me not to mention seeing her in the car. She offered me money. What did you do? I refused, of course, but she was very persuasive. I want you to know that what she did wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. After we hung up, I sat with that information. Alicia hadn't just lied in the moment. She'd actively worked to cover her tracks. That evening, I told Molly about the call. She tried to bribe a witness, Molly said quietly. Yeah. How did we raise someone who could do that? I don't know. A month later, I received a letter from Alicia, handwritten, several pages long. Dear Dad, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I wanted to write this anyway. I'm sorry. I convinced myself that I was helping, that Mom needed more care. But the truth is, I was desperate. I didn't think about what it would cost you and Mom. The accident was my fault. I was driving. And when Mom started to remember, I realized the only way to protect myself was to make sure no one would believe her. That's why I started the guardianship scheme. I destroyed our family to save myself. I'm in therapy now, trying to figure out how I became this person. I'm sorry, Dad, for everything. Alicia. I read the letter 3 times. Then I set it aside. Molly found it later that evening. She wrote to you. I handed her the letter. She read it slowly. She sounds different, Molly said finally. Maybe she is. Or maybe she just learned what to say. What are you going to do? Nothing. Not yet. Maybe not ever. We didn't talk about Alicia much after that. Life went on. The business grew. We settled into a new normal. Some wounds don't heal. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. 18 months after the plea deal, Alicia and Brent completed their restitution payments. Every cent paid back in full. James Peterman called to confirm. They sold everything. They met the deadline. Good. Money couldn't repair what they'd broken. Trust, family, the fundamental belief that your own child wouldn't try to destroy you. Warner Facility Solutions secured a major contract with a hospital network, the biggest deal I'd ever landed. 2 years after the plea deal, I received another letter from Alicia. Dad, I know I don't have the right to ask anything, but Mom's birthday is next month. I'd like to see her, just for a few minutes. I understand if you say no. Alicia, I showed the letter to Molly. What do you want to do? I asked. She thought for a long time. I want to see her, but I'm afraid. We could meet her somewhere public, just for a few minutes. Would you come with me? Of course. I called Alicia and arranged a meeting. Coffee shop, 30 minutes. The day of the meeting, Molly was nervous. We arrived early. Alicia arrived exactly on time. She looked different, thinner. Her hair was shorter. No expensive clothes, just jeans and a plain shirt. Mom, Dad, thank you for agreeing to this. Molly gestured to the empty chair. Sit down. Alicia sat. You wanted to wish me happy birthday? Molly asked. Yes. Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you. Silence. Why did you want to see me? Molly asked. Because I miss you. Because I'm sorry. Because I wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. You tried to take my autonomy, my memories, my life. I know. Molly reached across the table and took Alicia's hand. I remember the accident now. I remember you were driving. I remember you were scared. I also remember that you lied. For 3 years. Alicia's eyes filled with tears. So I don't know how to trust you. I don't know if I ever can again. I understand. Molly withdrew her hand. Thank you for the birthday wishes. But I think we're done here. Alicia stood, paused. Mom, Dad, I really am sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said. She left. Molly and I sat there in silence. How do you feel? I asked. Sad. Relieved. All of it at once. We drove home. That evening we sat in the living room. Alicia will always be our daughter, Molly said, but she won't be part of our legacy. No. But we have other things. The business, the people you've helped. She was right. Warner Facility Solutions was 200 families with steady incomes. A legacy built on honest work. That mattered more than Alicia's betrayal. Time passed. Molly's memory stabilized. The company thrived. I'd protected what mattered most. Alicia and Brent had tried to destroy us, but they'd failed. Not because I was smarter or stronger, but because I refused to give up. We survived, we rebuilt, we moved forward. Victory